Welcome to English Speak Pulse. I'm Danielle, and today I want to start with a simple question. Do you really need grammar to speak English fluently?
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, and honestly, that question still surprises me. Because most learners believe that without grammar, you just can't speak properly.
Exactly. But here's the twist. Some of the most fluent English speakers in the world don't think about grammar at all when they talk. They speak naturally, confidently, and effortlessly.
That's true. Think about it. When you learned your first language as a kid, did you sit down with grammar books? Nope. You listened, you copied, and you spoke. That's how your brain naturally learns a language.
Right. But in school, we were taught to focus on rules before real conversation. That's why so many learners get stuck. They know grammar but can't speak.
Exactly. Because fluency isn't about perfect grammar. It's about rhythm, confidence, and connection. When you stop overthinking and start speaking, that's when real progress begins.
And today, we're going to show you exactly how to do that. How to speak English naturally, confidently, and fluently without grammar stress.
You'll learn real-world techniques, listening tricks, and thinking habits that help you sound fluent even if you forget every grammar rule you've ever learned.
So if you've been afraid to speak because you think your grammar isn't perfect, stay with us.
Because after today's episode, you'll finally understand how to speak English freely and fearlessly, the way real people do in real life.
Let's get started. This is how to speak English without grammar.
All right, let's unpack this really crucial topic right now. We're diving into what might just be the single biggest myth, maybe the most counterproductive one in all of language learning.
Which is?
This idea that, studying more and more grammar rules is somehow the path to fluency.
Ah, yes, that one.
And if you feel stuck, maybe you're constantly hesitating, or your mind just goes blank mid-sentence, well, chances are that focus on grammar is actually like the root of the problem.
It really is. It creates this huge cognitive load. Think about it.
Yeah.
Grammar is inherently about calculation, right?
Analyzing.
Exactly.
Oh,
it makes you pause, use that analytical part of your brain to find the right tense, the right article, the perfect structure for what you want to say.
But conversations don't wait.
No, conversational English is fast. By the time you figured out the rule, the moment, that natural flow, it's already gone.
And the result?
Where you get hesitant speech, kind of awkward, stalls the whole communication.
And here's what's really interesting, I think. Native speakers, they almost never calculate like that. They prioritize communication. And honestly, they make grammar mistakes all the time.
Constantly.
But the conversation just keeps flowing because their speaking is, automatic. They're pulling whole phrases from memory, not like building sentences piece by piece with rules.
That GPS analogy we talked about is perfect here. Grammar is like your GPS. It's great for understanding the map, the rules of the road,
Sure, helpful for navigation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But if you spend the whole drive just staring at the GPS, checking every single turn, you stop being a responsive driver.
You become hesitant.
Slow, hesitant, and frankly, more anxious. Focusing too much on being perfectly correct just kills the confidence you need for a real-time chat.
Okay, but hang on. I have to bring up something we hear a lot from learners.
Go for it.
What about professional settings? Or, tests like TOEFL? Doesn't ignoring verb tenses and articles feel a bit, irresponsible? Doesn't grammar still matter then?
Oh, it absolutely matters, no question. But it's really about the timing and the priority.
Okay, how so?
Grammar study, that's an analytical thing. It's best done outside the actual speaking moment. Fluency, though, that's more like an athletic activity.
Right. Like training for a sport.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want to run faster, you train your legs, you practice running. You don't just sit around studying diagrams of leg muscles, right?
do that.
So once you get that fluency, that automatic, effortless flow, the grammar structures actually start to integrate more naturally. Why? Because you've heard and repeated the correct ways of saying things so many times.
So flip the priority.
Yes. Fluency first, then fine-tuning the grammar later.
That sets up our deep dive perfectly then. Fluency isn't built through calculation. It's built through habits. Habits that train your mouth and your brain to just work together automatically. So we're diving into the 3 core habits for that kind of automatic, natural speech: listening, repetition, and response.
Okay, let's start with the foundation. Listening. A lot of learners treat listening pretty passively, maybe just background noise while they focus on reading or writing exercises.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But active listening, that's absolutely crucial because, well, you simply cannot produce sounds or patterns that your brain hasn't already stored somewhere. Speaking requires a ton of prior hearing.
And it's not just about hearing individual words, is it? It's about what the brain is actually taking in.
No, not just words. It's absorbing rhythm, intonation, and what we call linguistic chunks.
Chunks, like set phrases.
Plus, exactly. Fixed phrases, common contractions, the way words naturally link together in speech, like gonna, wanna, kinda.
Ah, okay. So things you hear all the time.
Right. And what's fascinating is how the brain handles this. When you hear gonna or wanna over and over, your brain stops processing going to or want to as separate words needing calculation.
It just becomes one unit.
Precisely. It absorbs them as a single ready-made unit, a chunk. So when you speak, you retrieve the whole chunk automatically. It bypasses that slower process of figuring out individual words and grammar. That's fluency acceleration right there.
I love that music analogy you mentioned before. You can't just play a song by reading the sheet music once, right?
Absolutely not.
You have to hear it, feel the beat, really internalize that tune over and over until the rhythm feels like second nature.
English is just the same. You need to listen until the cadence, the flow of the language, feels totally natural. That allows your brain to shift gears from analyzing to just automatically retrieving.
Okay, and that brings us to a really powerful technique, shadowing.
Yes, shadowing. And it's often misunderstood. This isn't just casual repeating.
So what is it exactly?
Shadowing means you play a short audio clip, maybe 30, 60 seconds, of clear conversational English, and you speak almost immediately after the narrator.
Like an echo.
Kind of, but you're trying to precisely match their pronunciation, their speed, and really importantly, their tone, their intonation.
Okay, practical question then.
Right.
What kind of audio should people use? Does it matter if they're sitting or walking?
Good points.
Yeah.
Start with material that's actually slightly below your reading comprehension level.
Below, why?
Because if you're struggling just to understand the meaning, your brain's too busy decoding. The shadowing part won't work. The goal, initially at least, is flow and sound copying, not deep understanding.
Got it. And the setting?
Focus is key. Don't try to multitask. You can walk, stand, sit, whatever works, but you need intense focus on just copying the sound patterns.
So you're training the connection between ear and mouth.
You are training those neural pathways to sync sound input with physical output. Your mouth and brain start thinking and speaking in English patterns, building that automaticity, even if you don't catch every single word's meaning right away.
Okay, so listening fills the tank, gets the patterns in there. How do we actually get those sounds out smoothly without, stuttering or hesitating?
That's step 2, repetition. And it's all about building muscle memory.
Muscle memory for speaking.
Absolutely. Repetition is how you turn that stored knowledge into effortless physical action. Think about that basketball player again.
Right, practicing the shot.
They study the theory, sure, but they become great by physically practicing the motion of the shot thousands and thousands of times until their body just knows what to do. It takes over.
And English is the same. For your mouth.
Yes. Your tongue, your mouth, your lips, even your breathing, and the mental retrieval, they all have to move together automatically without conscious thought. That coordination is fluency.
So the goal isn't just saying a word correctly once, it's creating that automatic sequence of sounds.
Exactly. Instead of, say, memorizing abstract grammar charts, which has its place but not for fluency building, you should be repeating real, useful, common phrases until your mouth doesn't even hesitate.
Can you give some examples? What kind of phrases?
Sure. Focus on things you'd actually use. Repeat them until they feel physically effortless, like, hey, I'm Sarah. I work as a content coach. Or, I've been learning English for about 2 years now. Maybe I really enjoy meeting new people.
Simple, everyday stuff.
Yes. And the practical step for you listening is practice these specific phrases, 5, 10 times a day. Then, and this is key, start making small variations.
Like how?
Change the name, change the time period, change the job or the hobby. Hey, I'm David. I work as a designer. I've been learning English for about 6 months now. I really enjoy watching movies. You're building flexibility based on a core pattern, driven by speed, not calculation.
Okay, so listen actively, repeat for muscle memory. Now, once those basic phrases feel automatic, we get to the final piece, response.
Yes, response. This is where you stop just studying language and actually start using it in interaction.
And the big challenge here is accessing those practice chunks under pressure, right? When someone actually asks you a question.
That's the real test of automaticity. Response means prioritizing speed and communication over perfect grammar. The goal is instant retrieval from habit.
Right. So if someone asks, how are you? The learner stuck on grammar has to, what? Translate the question, think about the structure, check the verb tense.
Find the vocabulary, then speak. It's slow. A fluent speaker. They just retrieve a ready-made response chunk.
Which is why we hear natural, quick answers like, I'm doing great, thanks for asking.
Or, pretty good, just a bit tired today.
Can't complain, it's been a busy week. You didn't calculate the present continuous tense there.
No, you just pulled a prefabricated linguistic module, basically.
So we're training the brain to ditch the hesitation and just rely on habit.
Exactly. And that dramatically lowers the cognitive load. When you use these automatic chunks, you free up your mental energy to focus on the message, on what you actually want to say, instead of getting bogged down in the mechanics of the sentence.
Let's connect this to how kids learn language, the native method, because it totally backs this up.
It really does.
Children learn through just massive exposure and absorption, right? Listen, repeat, use. A kid hears, do you want some juice? Maybe 100 times.
They internalize the sound, the rhythm, the meaning contextually.
And eventually, they just instinctively produce some version of that chunk, like want juice. They didn't sit through a grammar lesson on modal verbs or question formation.
That's the absolute key distinction. Our brains are fundamentally designed to acquire language through exposure, not through explicit explanation.
So we need immersion.
We need immersion, whether it's watching English shows, finding conversation partners, listening to podcasts like this one. You let the structures soak in naturally over time, rather than trying to force them in through rule memorization.
But this loops back to that huge mistake learners make, waiting until their grammar is perfect before they dare to speak. They're afraid of errors.
And our sources are crystal clear on this, that fear is paralyzing. Perfection really is the enemy of progress here.
Waiting just guarantees you stay stuck.
There is that related risk you touched on earlier, fossilization. If you start speaking too much without enough good input, without hearing the correct rhythm and patterns, you risk those bad habits becoming permanent.
Right, so how do you avoid that? More grammar study.
No. The antidote isn't more grammar rules. It's more high-quality listening and more shadowing. You're constantly correcting and refining your internal patterns by mimicking accurate, native-like models, replacing the flawed attempts with better ones.
Okay, that's a really powerful clarification. So the practical confidence trick, the mindset shift, is simple then.
Pretty simple, yes. Stop focusing obsessively on correctness. Start focusing on connection.
Ask yourself,
Am I being understood? That's the real measure of success in communication. A small grammar mistake. It rarely stops someone from understanding you if your overall flow and your intention are clear. People care much more about what you're saying.
think about it. When you talk to a non-native speaker, are you sitting there judging their prepositions?
Rarely, if ever. You're listening to their story, their idea, their question. We naturally filter out minor errors to get the meaning. You just need to give yourself that same grace.
Okay, so let's make this super practical. How do we make this happen day to day? We need to talk about living in English.
Yes. This means becoming your own conversation partner. You practice real-life dialogues simply by narrating your own life out loud as you go through your day.
Even if no one else is around.
Especially if no one else is around. It integrates the language into your subconscious life. Take a simple daily task like making coffee.
Okay.
You just run an internal monologue. But say it aloud, softly maybe. Okay, I'm making coffee now. I think I'll add milk first today. Maybe a little sugar too.
Hey.
I should probably check my emails quickly.
You're not studying English, you're living in it.
Exactly. Making it second nature, not some academic subject you only pull out for study time.
And another strategy, and this one feels a bit awkward at first maybe, but gives instant feedback. Listening to yourself.
Ah, yes. Recording yourself.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
Just record yourself talking about something simple for, say, 60 seconds. When you play it back, what do you notice?
You immediately hear two crucial things. First, where does your flow break down? Where are those hesitation points?
The ums and ahs and long pauses.
Right. And second, you can often hear if your sentences sound, well, translated. Like you constructed them word for word from your native language. That's a dead giveaway that you're still calculating, not retrieving natural chunks.
The value isn't judgment then.
Not at all. It's about becoming your own coach, your own editor. You focus on rhythm, natural phrasing. If you sound hesitant or choppy, you know exactly what you need to work on.
So,
more shadowing, more repetition of those specific phrases or structures until they just flow.
Okay, let's try a quick practical exercise right now. Let's focus purely on speed and rhythm. If you're listening, just close your eyes for a second.
Okay.
Imagine you've just met someone new, maybe a colleague. They turn to you and ask, "So, what do you do?"
A common question.
Very common. Now, don't translate an answer in your head. Don't worry about the perfect verb tense. Just open your mouth and say something simple, quickly, retrieve it automatically. Maybe, "I work at a startup."
Or, I'm studying electrical engineering.
Or, "I run a small food truck." Whatever fits. Now, say that same sentence again, maybe whisper it, but focus on the speed and the tone. Try to make it sound natural, like you've said it 100 times. Feel that physical process.
That feeling, right? That automatic, effortless production. That's the momentum we're building. This really drives home the power of consistency. Fluency isn't built in these huge marathon study sessions once in a while.
It's the daily grind.
It is 10 minutes of focused speaking practice every single day using these habits, listening, repetition, response that beats an hour of intense grammar study once a week, every time. Fluency grows with frequency. It needs that regular workout.
So the big message here is stop waiting. Stop waiting for that imaginary day when your grammar is suddenly perfect. It won't happen that way.
Start building those automatic speech patterns now, today.
Through consistent, high-quality listening, focused repetition, and just making yourself respond, even in low-stakes ways.
Exactly. Embrace the process. Prioritize communication, connecting with people over grammatical perfection. Speak, even if it's just to yourself at first. Narrate your actions, describe your day, talk about your plans. Replace those old calculation habits with retrieval habits.
And if you really stick with these habits, listening, repeating, responding, here's the provocative thought we want to leave you with today.
Go on.
One day, maybe you'll be washing dishes or walking down the street, just doing something totally mundane. And you'll suddenly notice that you're thinking in English.
Without trying to.
Without even realizing when it started. And you definitely won't have stopped to calculate the grammar of that internal thought. It'll just be happening.
That's the moment.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've truly learned to speak the language, because it's become part of how you think, part of your being, not just something you study.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really zeroing in on something I think a lot of people struggle with, getting truly natural speaking fluency, specifically in English, and crucially, doing it without, drowning in grammar books. We're exploring some sources today that offer a pretty different take. The basic idea is this. Fluency isn't about getting every rule perfect. It's more about rhythm, confidence, just communicating smoothly. So our mission here is to break down the mindset and the actual methods that fluent speakers use, the ones who just seem to talk, without that internal hesitation. Yeah, exactly. Think of the sources we're looking at less like a textbook and more like a gym for your fluency. We're training mental habits, training your ear, getting those speaking reflexes sharp. Because, the sources argue, relying only on grammar rules, that activates the wrong kind of memory. Declarative memory. What we want is to shift it to procedural memory, make it automatic, like riding a bike. The goal is you sound confident, you communicate well, even if maybe you can't perfectly explain, say, the past perfect continuous tense on a test. We're looking at how to genuinely think in English, and importantly, how to get around those things that just kill fluency dead.
Okay, let's dig into that. You mentioned fluency killers, and the biggest one has to be that constant internal translation, right? Let's talk about why stop translating, start thinking in English is so fundamental. It really comes down to cognitive load. Simple as that. Most learners, when they try to speak, they have the idea in their native language first, then they mentally translate it, then they try to check the grammar rules for that translation, and then finally they say the sentence. That's like 4 mental steps.
4 steps, which explains the lag, the pauses. Your brain is busy converting language, doing calculations, instead of focusing on the actual conversation, the rhythm, the meaning.
Precisely. And that lag, it's just fatal in a real back-and-forth conversation. The sources point out that translating forces this constant mental gear shifting. It eats up massive processing power. It's like trying to, update your computer's operating system while playing a really demanding video game. Things just freeze or crash. Fluency needs that direct link. Thought straight to speech.
Right. So the goal is immediate English thought. You feel something, you react, and you just skip that native language step altogether. But how do we actually train our brains for that? Just telling someone don't translate feels a bit insufficient.
It does, yeah. You need a specific practice. And the trick here is about daily, disciplined description, or better yet, articulation of your world directly in English, not just simple stuff. So maybe move beyond just the window is open. Try tackling more complex, nuanced situations like, okay, I need to summarize the main points from that meeting before I head out, or maybe, I'm weighing up whether to catch the early train tomorrow, but that means getting up ridiculously early. When you force your brain to handle those kinds of adult concepts, planning, dilemmas, using only English structures, you're building the capacity to generate complex English thoughts on the fly. That reduces the cognitive load hugely when a real conversation kicks off.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You're basically forging new neural pathways that bypass that old translation detour. And speaking of pathways, emotion comes into play here, doesn't it? Focusing only on rules ignores maybe our most powerful memory aid.
Absolutely. We have to talk about emotional connection and imperfection. Emotion is just a way better glue for memory than some dry grammar formula. I mean, think about it. Why do we remember song lyrics or lines from movies or even things said in arguments? Because they had emotional weight. When you feel the English you're speaking, you embed it much deeper. It gets into that procedural memory we talked about. So when you practice, don't just robotically recite, embody it. If you're talking about something frustrating, actually convey that frustration in your voice, maybe even your expression. If you say, that was absolutely hilarious, try to genuinely feel and show the amusement. Language is fundamentally about connection, right? Yeah. Transferring feelings. Using emotion gives you permission to stop just reciting words and actually start communicating.
Which leads us right into the biggest roadblock for so many people: fear. If you're trying to be emotional and natural, the fear of making a mistake just slams the brakes on everything. And the sources say this comes from that old school style learning, where getting things wrong felt like failure. But isn't tackling fear harder, in a way, than learning grammar rules? At least rules give you something concrete to hold on to. Telling someone to stop judging yourself can feel a bit abstract, can't it?
That's a really fair point. But the fear isn't really abstract when you look at where it comes from. It often stems from relying on that rule-based declarative memory. When you're consciously building a sentence piece by piece using grammar rules, you're constantly aware of all the ways you could mess up. Is the adjective order right? Did I pick the right preposition? That fear makes you clam up. The breakthrough comes when you realize that every single fluent speaker, native or not, made countless mistakes to get there. They just kept going, because they cared more about getting the meaning across than achieving perfect syntax. As soon as you shift your focus from, was my grammar perfect, to, did the other person understand me? The fear starts to lose its power. Mistakes just become data, things to learn from, not failures.
Okay, so the big mindset shift is, ditch the impossible quest for grammatical perfection. Prioritize messy, real communication instead. If we buy into that, well, then our whole method for speaking needs to change too, right? We often imagine fluent speakers are like linguistic gymnasts constantly building these long, intricate sentences from scratch. But that's actually not how native speech works, is it?
Not really, no. It's a bit of a myth. And that brings us neatly to the power of short phrases and speech blocks. Real fluent speech isn't usually about complexity. It's built for efficiency. It relies massively on short, clear phrases that link together smoothly.
Yeah, think about everyday chat. Hey, what's up? But no worries, got it. I'm running a bit late. Simple stuff. High-frequency building blocks.
Exactly. And we call them speech blocks because they work like pre-made units. They let you skip the step of assembling the grammar in real time. So when a native speaker wants to talk about something hypothetical, they don't usually consciously think, okay, subject.verb.complement.if clause. They just grab a ready-made block, like, if I were you, or maybe, as far as I'm concerned.
Ah, okay, so that's the key insight. The efficiency isn't just using short sentences, it's using these prepackaged chunks that cut down the mental processing time. You're not building the sentence brick by brick. You're grabbing a pre-built Lego piece that already has the grammar baked in.
Precisely. And the sources really emphasize focusing on collecting and automating these common blocks. These are the phrases that handle transitions or soften a disagreement or frame an opinion. Things like, to be perfectly honest with you, or at the end of the day, or maybe if worse comes to worse. You know what I mean? They're like conversational grease, making everything flow faster and sound more natural.
And this idea of blocks ties straight into how we should learn vocabulary, doesn't it? Because just memorizing lists of single words, that doesn't really help for speaking. They need context.
Absolutely useless for speaking, yeah. Words need their partners. This is all about collocations. Learning words in the pairs or groups they naturally hang out in. It's what makes English sound automatic and stops that feeling of constantly searching for the right word. If you learn deep and sleep as separate items, you might accidentally say heavy sleep. But if you learn the collocation deep sleep, it just comes out right.
And there's no grammar rule for that. You can't look up why heavy sleep is wrong and deep sleep is right. It's just how it's used, what fluent ears are used to hearing.
Exactly. It's usage, not rules. When your brain stores make a decision as one chunk, you never have that pause where you wonder, wait, is it do or make? You just pull out the whole block instantly.
Let's maybe run through a few common examples just to nail this down. It's about that cognitive efficiency. So we don't say, do a decision, we internalize, make a decision. You learn catch a cold, not really get a cold in the same way. You do homework, you don't make homework, and you pay attention, you don't give attention. Using these combos just speeds things up and makes you sound much more natural. Okay, so the fundamental change here is moving away from analyzing language structure and towards just acquiring these functional building blocks. But acquiring them takes specific daily effort.
It really does. You hear this all the time. Oh, I listen to English podcasts every day, but my speaking isn't getting better. Well, that's usually because of passive listening.
Right. Just having something on in the background while you're cooking or driving.
Yeah.
Sure, you're getting some exposure to the sound, but you're not actively training your ear or your speaking skills.
Exactly. Active listening means focusing on how people speak. The tone, the rhythm, the little pauses, and really importantly, the contractions and reductions. You have to train your ear to catch the compressed sounds of natural speech, like hearing what you're doing, or Ghana, instead of listening for the slow, careful, what are you doing or going to. You need to decode the language at its actual speed.
So how do we make listening active? The sources talk about a specific technique, the listen, repeat, react method. This sounds pretty hands-on. We should probably unpack this one a bit.
Yeah, this is designed specifically to connect listening practice directly to speaking practice. It's a quick 3-step cycle. Let's say you hear a short audio clip, maybe someone saying, oh, I'm totally slammed right now. Can we circle back on that tomorrow? Okay, step 1, just listen carefully to that clip. Step 2, repeat. Immediately say the exact same phrase, trying hard to copy the intonation, the stress, the speed, that feeling of being slammed. You're training your mouth muscles, the rhythm. Then, step 3, react. Respond to what was said in your own words, but try to keep a similar pace. Maybe say, oh, sure, no problem. Tomorrow's fine. Or, okay, what time works?
Ah, I see. Forcing that immediate reaction stops your brain from defaulting back to that slow translation mode we talked about. And the repetition part, that feels like it leads directly into the next big training technique, imitation. This sounds potentially really powerful, but isn't just copying what someone says kind of like parroting? How does imitating help you generate your own original thoughts later on?
That's a really common question, and it's a good one. The key distinction is what you're copying. You're not just copying the words or the content. You're copying the delivery, the music of the language. Imitation is a technique that professional actors, public speakers use all the time because it's frankly the fastest way to sound natural. You copy the sounds, the rhythm, the emotion. You're essentially acting out the English. When you imitate like that, your mouth physically learns the flow. You pick a short clip of natural speech, maybe from a movie or podcast, listen, then play it again and speak along, matching everything, tone, pauses, emotion. By doing this, you're absorbing the underlying grammar patterns through sound and use, totally bypassing the need to consciously think about rules.
So you're training your muscles in your ear, not your inner grammar textbook. That really is grammar-free fluency training, isn't it? Okay, so to make all this practical, especially if you're not living in an English-speaking country, it needs to be a daily habit, maybe even a micro habit. Which brings us to mini conversations.
Yes, absolutely. This is about making it doable. It only takes a minute or two, but it trains fluency really effectively. Instead of just narrating simple things, try simulating a more complex little dialogue with yourself. Express opinions, summarize something you read, plan something out loud, like simulate a work issue in your head, but say it out loud. Okay, I'm really struggling with this project deadline. The client keeps changing the specs. I mean, I get their point about needing flexibility, but we really need to lock down the scope by Friday. Otherwise, well, we're just not going to hit the deadline. See that kind of internal chat, spoken aloud, uses advanced blocks, conditionals. It gets you practicing complex structures naturally.
And this practice shouldn't just stay internal, right? We need to find ways to actually use English in real-life functions, even small ones.
That's right. Definitely. Use English when you order things online, especially if you need to specify details. Try using English keywords for your serious Google searches, not just translating them. Even stating your own goals out loud in English forces you to use future tenses, more complex ideas. Like, okay, my goal is to leverage these new skills I'm learning to push for a promotion. maybe within the next 18 months. Every little instance reinforces that fluency muscle.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of practical stuff. But finally, we need to address the elephant in the room, maybe the magic ingredient that people often overlook: time.
Yes. Fluency isn't something you achieve overnight. It's not an event, it's a process. It grows, kind of like a tree, slowly, steadily, but only if you keep watering it. You just can't rush to the brain's process of automating all these blocks and rhythms. Consistency, even just small amounts every single day, is so much more powerful than occasional intense cramming sessions.
And the sources seem pretty confident on this point. They basically assure you if you actually commit to speaking and doing this kind of active training daily, even if it's only for 10 focused minutes, you will sound dramatically different. You'll communicate much more effortlessly, say, 6 months down the line.
So just to wrap up the core ideas from this deep dive. First, stop translating in your head, think directly in English to cut that cognitive load. Second, focus on grabbing those short pre-made speech blocks. Third, listen actively, decode the real speed, and imitate the flow. Fourth, learn vocabulary and context collocations are key. Fifth, connect emotion to your words. It helps you remember and communicate. And sixth, probably most vital, speak every single day.
That really feels like the formula for natural automated fluency. And maybe the final thought here is, if decades of wrestling with grammar rules haven't gotten you the fluency you want, what does that really tell you? It suggests the key ingredient isn't knowing all the rules. It's maybe the courage to speak even when you know it won't be perfect, your consistency actually doing the training, and your curiosity wanting to use the language as a real tool. Maybe think about which of those three, courage, consistency, or curiosity, you could lean into a bit more starting today.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really unpacking a massive shortcut to getting fluent in English. We're looking at something that could fundamentally change how you process the language.
Yeah, we're diving into that core issue, the thing that holds so many people back, that constant internal translation.
Exactly, that mental step where you think in your native language first and then try to find the English words. Our sources today suggest this is the single biggest barrier to speaking smoothly and quickly.
It absolutely is. And what's really interesting is how fluent speakers operate differently. They seem to bypass that whole calculation step. They think directly in English words, in phrases even.
Right. It's like their brain is just set to English mode.
Precisely. And that's why their speech sounds so natural, so confident. There's no hesitation while the brain searches for a translation or figures out a grammar rule. It's seamless.
Okay, I really like an analogy one of our sources use. Thinking in your native language and translating is like constantly hitting the brakes when you're trying to drive fast. You never build momentum.
That's a great way to put it. Always stopping and starting.
So our mission in this deep dive is to figure out how to get off the brakes.
Right.
How to get onto that open road, thinking and speaking smoothly in English. It's about rewiring how your brain defaults.
Yeah, exactly. Rewiring. That's the core idea. And it starts with the first, maybe most crucial step. You've got to stop translating and start visualizing.
Okay, visualizing. This sounds foundational. So the idea is, don't link the English word back to your native word. Link it directly to the thing itself, the image, the feeling.
Yes, precisely. Bypass the middleman, your native language. When you see an apple, your brain shouldn't go, apple means native word for apple. It should just go straight from the image, the red, the roundness, to the English word apple.
Well, you're building a direct connection. Like, if it starts raining outside, you don't think, oh, native phrase for it's raining, how do I say that in English? You just think, it's raining.
You got it. Or you see someone smiling, you think, he looks happy. Not translating the concept of happiness. It feels small, maybe word by word, but doing this consistently starts building that English brain.
Okay. It's like tiny little mental switches flipping all day. But how do you scale that up? From just single words or simple observations to stringing thoughts together?
Good question. That brings us neatly to the second step, which is much more active. Describe your day, the silent narration.
Silent narration. So basically, talk to yourself in your head, but only in English.
Exactly. We all have that internal monologue running, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's in our native tongue. The practice here is to consciously switch that narrator to English.
So as I'm like brushing my teeth, I think I'm brushing my teeth, or making breakfast. I'm making breakfast now. I need coffee, getting ready. Okay, got to get ready for work. Stuff like that.
Yes. Simple, everyday actions. I'm walking to the bus stop. This meeting is going long. I wonder what's for dinner. The point isn't complexity, it's consistency.
And the beauty is you can do this anywhere, right? In the shower, commuting, waiting in line just before you fall asleep.
Absolutely anywhere. It's about training your brain to form English sentences on the fly without consciously thinking about grammar rules. You're practicing sentence structure automatically.
It's like building muscle memory, but for sentence formation.
That's a good way to think about it, and it's happening in your head, so there's zero pressure. No one's judging your internal grammar. You're just practicing. You're making the brain default to English for expressing your immediate reality.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, sometimes when I try that, my brain still wants to slip back into my native language, especially if I get stuck on a word. How do you really lock it into English mode?
Right. That's a common hurdle. And that's where the next technique, step 3, practicing thinking chains, becomes really useful.
Thinking chains. Okay, how does that work?
It's a focused exercise. You pick one English word, let's say coffee, and then you link related ideas one after another, only using English.
So like coffee, morning, needs energy office, maybe a meeting, feeling tired. Need another coffee.
Well,
Like that. Just following the connections.
exactly like that. Coffee leads to morning, morning leads to work, work leads to tired, tired leads back to coffee. The key is you force yourself to stay in English for the entire chain.
Ah, I see. Because you're actively trying to find the next link in English, your brain doesn't have the bandwidth to switch back to your native language to translate.
Precisely. It keeps the English channel open and active. It prevents that mental code switching. You're basically training your brain through repetition that English is a fully functional language for your thoughts, not just something you translate into.
So we're rewiring the internal thinking process. That feels like the foundation. But then you need to actually, speak. How does this connect to communicating with others?
Great transition. Because once you start decoupling your thinking, you need the right tools for output. And this leads us to maybe the most practical, actionable insight from our sources. Step 4, focus on phrases, not rules.
Right. This one feels huge. Fluent speakers aren't constantly conjugating verbs in their heads, are they?
Not at all. They're not thinking, okay, subject plus have plus past participle for present perfect. They just use phrases they've heard and internalized, like, I've seen that movie, or have you eaten yet?
So instead of memorizing abstract grammar rules, the idea is to memorize useful, ready-made phrases, like chunks of language.
Exactly. Chunks. Think of them as prefabricated units. Instead of trying to build, I have completed my homework from scratch using rules, you learn the common natural phrase, I'm done with my homework.
Or instead of constructing, shall we initiate our departure? You just know, let's go, or should we head out?
Yes. Much more natural, much faster. And the sources highlighted a really powerful metric here.
Yeah, I saw that knowing somewhere between 500 and, say, 1,000 common phrases can equip you to handle something like 90% of everyday conversations.
That's the claim. Think about it, 90%. That suggests you can achieve a high level of functional fluency just by mastering these high-frequency chunks without getting bogged down in complex grammar initially.
That's incredibly efficient. It focuses your learning on what provides the most communicative power fastest.
It really does. It's about practical communication over theoretical perfection. But, okay, let's play devil's advocate for a second. If you only learn phrases, don't you risk sounding a bit robotic or limited? How do you generate new sentences?
That's a fair point. And I think that ties into the next step, step 5. Simplify your sentences, especially at the beginning.
Okay, so the idea isn't to sound like Shakespeare right away.
Definitely not. Fluency is about flow, confidence, and connection, not complex sentence structures initially. Simple sentences are your best friend in real conversation.
So using short, clear sentences like, I like it, it's okay, that sounds good, let's do it, things like that.
Exactly. Keep it simple. Subject, verb, object. When you simplify the structure, you drastically reduce the mental processing needed. This frees up your brain to focus on communicating quickly and smoothly, rather than getting tangled in complex grammar.
It's like building a base. Get the flow going with simple structures. And then once that thinking and English engine is running automatically, you can start adding complexity later.
Right. It's a strategic approach.
Yeah.
Fluency first, complexity builds on top of that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've got the internal rewiring, the focus on phrases, the simplification. Now, how do we put this into practice in actual real-time conversations? That's often the scariest part.
It really is. That moment when someone speaks to you, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that leads us to step 6. Use the immediate response technique.
Immediate response. So fight the urge to pause and think.
Yes. That pause is deadly. It's where the panic sets in, where the brain defaults back to translating. The technique is when someone asks you something, you respond instantly, even if it's not perfect.
So if someone asks, say, how was your weekend? Don't freeze trying to construct the perfect past tense sentence. Just say something.
Exactly. Blurt out, good, went hiking, sunny, or relaxing, watch a movie, you. Whatever comes out first. Momentum over perfection.
Okay, I can see how that breaks the translation habit. But what if you make a mistake? Say you use the wrong tense, like, I go hiking yesterday.
The key insight here is that minor grammar mistakes rarely kill communication. Long, awkward pauses do. Connection is the goal. A slightly imperfect but quick response keeps the conversation flowing. People understand you through context.
Fluency is about connection, not perfection. I like that. Okay, so respond immediately. What else helps in real time?
Well, how do we get those phrases and natural rhythms into our heads in the first place? That brings us to step 7. Listen like a parrot, using shadowing.
Shadowing, like mimicking.
Exactly. Think about how kids learn. They don't study grammar books first. They listen constantly and they copy. Shadowing is the structured way for adults to do that.
So you listen to, say, a podcast or a video.
Yeah, anything with native speakers. And you repeat what they say out loud almost immediately after they say it, like you're their shadow.
And you're not just copying the words, are you?
No, that's the crucial part. You're trying to match their intonation, their rhythm, the melody of the language, the speed. It's physical practice.
So it trains your mouth and your ears at the same time. You're getting the pronunciation patterns, the common collocations, the flow. You're physically programming it in.
Yes. It builds the muscle memory for actually producing English sounds and sentences naturally.
Okay, so visualizing, narrating, thinking chains, phrases, simplicity, immediate response, shadowing. That's a powerful toolkit. But there's still one huge barrier we haven't fully addressed.
Let me guess. Step 8, the fear factor.
You got it. The fear of making mistakes, it can paralyze learners, stop them from even trying to use all these techniques.
It's probably the single biggest psychological block. People feel they need to be perfect before they open their mouths, but the sources emphasize. Mistakes aren't failures. They're proof you're trying, proof you're learning.
Absolutely. And, native speakers make mistakes all the time. We misspeak, we use slightly wrong words, we correct ourselves mid-sentence. It's natural. The difference is we don't freeze up about it.
We just keep going. Learners need to adopt that mindset. Don't let the fear of imperfection stop you from communicating.
It ties back to that analogy you mentioned earlier.
Right. Waiting to master all the grammar rules before you speak is like waiting until you're perfectly dry before you jump in the swimming pool. It makes no sense.
You have to get wet. You have to jump in, which leads directly to the final overarching point. Step 9. Real-life application is key.
You can do all the visualization and shadowing in the world. But if you don't actually use the language with other people, you won't achieve real fluency.
It's the practice field. Textbooks and apps are great for knowledge, but fluency is built through interaction, talking to friends, joining a conversation group, even just talking to yourself in the mirror out loud.
Every minute you spend actually speaking, even if it's clumsy at first, even if you make mistakes, is a minute you're building that automaticity, making the English pathways in your brain stronger.
So, if we bring it all together, what we're really talking about is a systematic way to shut down that internal translation engine, right?
Yeah, that seems to be the core thread. Stop the loop.
By visualizing directly, by narrating your day, by using thinking chains, you rewire the input. By focusing on phrases, simplifying, responding immediately, and shadowing, you practice the output. And by embracing mistakes and seeking real interaction, you make it all stick.
You force your brain step by step to stop relying on translation and start operating in English as its default mode for those situations.
And that ultimately is how fluent speakers do it. It becomes automatic, subconscious.
So the big takeaway is stop translating. Start living your thoughts and experiences directly in English, even in small ways at first.
Exactly. And that brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. We talked about that powerful idea. 500 to 1,000 phrases cover maybe 90% of daily conversation.
Right, the functional core.
So thinking about your specific daily life, your work, your family, your routines, what are, say, 3 essential phrases or short sentences you use constantly, things you say or think every single day?
Okay. Like maybe I need to check my email, or what time is dinner, or did you see that? Something really common for you.
Precisely. Identify just 3 of those personal high-frequency phrases. And starting right now, commit to only thinking and visualizing those specific phrases directly in English. No translation allowed for those three.
Make those three your first step in decoupling, a concrete action to take away.
That's the challenge. Find your three, internalize them in English, and start building from there. Something to think about until our next deep dive.
Definitely something to chew on. Find those phrases, make the switch. We'll see you next time. Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're tackling something huge for language learners. Finding a way to get to natural conversational English fluency.
Right, skipping the usual slog.
Exactly. We've looked at a bunch of sources that promise a kind of shortcut, a way to, leapfrog past just endless grammar drills.
And get straight to speaking with confidence.
Yeah, that's the goal. So we're pulling out the practical, maybe less traditional steps to help you bypass the textbook feel. Okay, let's get into it.
Well, what's interesting is how these sources right away pinpoint the core problem. I mean, you can spend years studying grammar rules, right?
Grammarizing verb tables.
Perfecting conjugations, all that. And then someone asks you something simple on the street and you just freeze.
Total paralysis.
Why? Because studying about English isn't the same as actually using it. That's the disconnect.
It's that feeling, isn't it? You know the rule somewhere in your head, but actually ordering a coffee or just saying hello back, it falls apart. So the sources say the big shift needed is moving from that theoretical stuff to real conversation-based learning.
You've got to start using English as a tool, a living thing.
Right, like picking up the functional bits first.
Precisely. The little phrases that make conversations flow, things you won't find neatly listed in Chapter 5 of a grammar book.
Okay, like what sort of things?
Well, think about conversational glue, Sounds great. Or, I'm not sure.
That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. Or the classic, let's grab a coffee. These aren't just words you look up. They're ready to go communication packets.
Okay, but then comes the big question, the practical problem. How do you practice conversation if you don't have someone to talk to all the time?
Yeah, finding partners can be tough.
But the sources actually had some good answers for this. They suggested things like language exchange apps, Hello Talk, Tandem.
Right, connecting with native speakers that way, or even using AI chat apps. They're getting pretty good for low-pressure practice.
Instant feedback, sort of.
And then there's the one people sometimes laugh at, but the sources were serious. Talking to yourself.
In front of a mirror.
Yeah. It sounds a bit odd, maybe.
Well, the obvious worry is, aren't you just practicing your mistakes if there's no feedback?
That's a fair point, but the value isn't about getting perfect pronunciation right away. It's about output, actually making the sounds.
Ah, okay. So it's about activating the knowledge.
Exactly. If you're not physically saying the words, it all stays passive in your brain. That slightly awkward mirror conversation, it forces your mouth to make the shapes.
And your brain to actually pull out the phrases.
Right. It starts building that bridge from knowing about it to actually doing it. Muscle memory for your mouth.
Okay, building active skill. That makes sense.
And that leads us nicely into this core technique the sources highlighted. They called it the triple threat technique. Training ears, mouth, and brain all together.
I like that name, triple threat. So this involves using movies and TV shows.
Yeah, basically turning short clips into your own little language lab. Step 5 in the process they outlined.
Okay, so how does it work? They were quite specific, weren't they?
Very specific. You take a really short scene, like 2 or 3 minutes max, from a show or movie you like.
Why so short?
To keep focused, avoid getting overwhelmed. If you try a whole episode, you just slip back into passively watching. 2 minutes forces you to concentrate.
Right, okay. So step 1, watch the short scene, subtitles on, listen hard.
Then step 2, and this is key, repeat the lines right after the actors. But you're not just reading.
You have to copy everything.
Everything. Pronunciation, sure, but really focus on the tone, the pitch, the rhythm. Try to sound exactly like them.
The musicality of it.
That's the core of it. Fluency isn't just about saying the words right. It's about the music of the language. Where's the stress? How do words link up? How does the pitch change? Okay. When you copy that rhythm, you're teaching your mouth the physical pattern. It's like learning a dance step.
So how do you know if you're getting it right? It feels a bit subjective.
Well, the measure is how natural it feels coming out of your mouth. After you've said a line, maybe 10, 15 times, copying the actor, your brain should start linking the sound and the rhythm directly to the meaning. It sort of bypasses the grammar part.
Ah, I see. So that's the triple threat. Ears hear the natural sound, mouth makes the shapes, brain connects meaning to the flow.
Exactly. And then the final step in this little cycle, turn the subtitles off.
And just listen.
Just listen, and if you've nailed that rhythm-meaning connection, you should understand way more, even if you couldn't write down every single word.
That's a huge difference from just studying grammar rules on paper.
It really is. Grammar is static. This is about learning the dynamic, fluid rules of how people actually speak. Fluency lives in that flow.
Okay, so we've got the mouth and ears working. Now, what about the actual words, getting the right vocabulary for conversations? Section 2, right?
Yeah, step 6, learn vocabulary in context. And this tackles a huge mistake so many learners make.
Memorizing lists.
Exactly. Long lists of isolated words.
Yeah.
Which is just not how native speakers learn. Not kids, not adults.
Okay, so what's the alternative?
Focusing on collocations, that's the linguistic term.
Collocations, meaning?
Simply words that like to hang out together. Natural partners, like heavy rain, not strong rain.
Ah, okay. Word pairs that just sound right.
Totally. If you just learn advice on its own, you might say something awkward like, I want to do some advice.
Instead of give advice or ask for advice.
Precisely. Learning these chunks, these phrases, that's the secret to sounding natural. Think, make a decision, not just decision, or take a picture, not just picture.
So it's about the word's environment, not the word itself in isolation.
You got it. Verbs and nouns often pair up, adjectives and nouns. Knowing these combinations is way more useful than knowing the single words.
That really changes how you'd approach flashcards, doesn't it? Makes isolated words seem kind of inefficient.
Very inefficient for fluency.
So once we learn these phrases, these collocations, how do we make them stick without resorting to, like, grammar exercises?
There's a neat trick the sources mention, immediate application.
Okay.
Whenever you learn a new one, say, break a promise, you immediately use it in 3 different sentences about your own life.
Ah, making it personal.
Yes. Not abstract examples. I try never to break a promise to my kids. Or, he broke his promise about finishing the report. Connecting it to your reality.
That makes sense. It anchors it in your memory differently than just a definition. It becomes part of your story.
Right. Automatic learning through use.
And this idea of using things repeatedly, that ties into the next part, doesn't it? The mindset for fluency.
It does. Step 7 is repeat and reflect. Fluency isn't a one-time achievement. It's built through doing things over and over until they're second nature. Automatic.
The sources used a fitness analogy, which I thought was great.
Yeah, that was good.
You don't get fit after one session at the gym, right? You get fit through consistency over months.
Same with language. You don't get fluent memorizing 100 phrases once. You get fluent using them daily until you don't even think about it. Muscle memory again, but for your tongue and brain.
And besides just repeating, there's reflection involved.
Yes, crucial. Every few days, you need to pause and check in with yourself, subtly.
Oh.
What do you ask?
The sources suggest specific questions. Am I thinking more in English now? Like, are English thoughts popping up naturally?
Okay.
Am I hesitating less when I speak? Even a tiny bit less hesitation is progress.
Right. It shows the brain is finding shortcuts.
Exactly. And do I understand more when I listen? Even small improvements mean your brain is adapting. The focus is on reduced effort.
Less struggle. Got it.
And that leads to maybe the most, I don't know, transformative step. Step 8. Learn emotionally, not academically.
This sounds big. What does learning emotionally mean here?
It means connecting English directly to your actual life, your interests, your passions, making it fun, exciting, meaningful, not just another subject you have to study.
Because if it feels like homework, you'll drop it. Consistency goes out the window.
Pretty much. So how do you inject that emotion? By using English with the things you already love.
Okay, give me examples. If you love cooking, don't look up recipes in your own language anymore. Find English cooking videos on YouTube. Follow English-speaking chefs.
Right. Immerse yourself in English within your hobby.
Exactly. Love football. Watch interviews with players in English. Read match reports in English.
What about music?
Perfect example. Read the English lyrics while you listen. Try singing along. You absorb so much language that way.
And the why behind this?
Yeah.
It connects to memory, right?
Absolutely. When you link language to strong interest or emotion, your brain holds on to it effortlessly. Think about song lyrics.
Yeah, you remember your favorite songs perfectly, even complex lines.
And you didn't sit down with a grammar book to learn them. You remember because they're tied to feeling, to rhythm, to context. It bypasses that slow analytical part of the brain.
It creates a faster pathway.
A fluent pathway, you just know it feels right, like riding a bike. You don't analyze, you just do.
Okay, that's powerful. So we've got the technique, the vocabulary context, the mindset. What's the last piece?
Keeping the momentum going. Step 9, celebrate small wins.
Acknowledging progress.
Yes, because fluency can feel like this huge, distant mountain. If you only focus on the summit, you'll get discouraged.
So you need to notice the small steps.
Definitely. Maybe today you used a new phrase correctly, or you understood a bit more of a podcast than last week, or you replied just a fraction faster.
That's real progress.
It is, and recognizing it feeds that emotional connection, keeps you motivated, reinforces the habit.
So the overall message from the sources seems to be fluency isn't some sudden aha moment.
Right at all.
But if you're consistent with these methods, the triple threat, learning phrases in context, connecting emotionally, one day you just realize.
You realize you're speaking more naturally, more confidently, without constantly translating or checking rules in your head.
That's the dream, isn't it?
It's the shift from studying English to actually living in English, making it part of your daily life. You stop being a student, you become a user.
So for you listening, trying to make this work, the sources had a really powerful final point. The ultimate goal isn't about achieving perfect, flawless grammar. It's about connection.
That's so important.
If you can express your ideas, your feelings, connect with people, you're already fluent in the way that truly matters.
Absolutely. Which leads to a final thought, maybe a challenge for you listening right now.
Okay.
Think about something you genuinely love doing. Cooking, gaming, sports, music, gardening, whatever it is. What's one small, concrete step you could take today to bring English into that passion?
Starting that emotional learning cycle.
Exactly. Find one English recipe video, one sports commentary clip, one song lyric page. Just start there. That's how the journey begins.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. So if you've ever tried learning English, or really any language, you probably know the feeling. Start with the basics, the grammar rules, and then you spend what feels like forever trying to get everything perfect. Like the conditional, perfect, continuous, right? It gets exhausting.
Yeah.
But today, we're here to tackle maybe the biggest myth holding learners back. The most damaging one, really. Our mission, based on the sources you sent in, is to look at this pretty radical idea. Speak first, correct later. We're pulling out 10 actual steps, things you can do to get fluent, not just, grammatically correct.
Yeah, and that central myth, the idea that you absolutely must have perfect grammar before you dare to speak, that's the single biggest thing trapping millions of students.
Yeah.
Seriously, they think fluency is this reward you get after you've studied everything. So they wait. They're waiting for that magic day. They know all the rules.
Which never comes.
Exactly. It never arrives. So they end up staying quiet forever sometimes.
It's like the classic catch-22 of language learning, isn't it? You wait to be good enough to start, but waiting stops you from ever starting.
Precisely. But the big shift our sources are pushing is seeing language as a skill you use first. You use it and then you perfect it along the way. That change in perspective, it changes everything. Fluency isn't about having zero mistakes. Not at all. It's about the momentum, the forward motion through the mistakes. Like one source said, and I love this, don't be afraid to sound wrong. Be afraid to stay quiet. Your brain learns when you try, when you apply it, not when you sit there in silence worrying.
Okay, so let's dive into that first big idea. Step one, really embracing this speak first mindset. You mentioned native speakers make mistakes all the time, grammatical ones, even big ones sometimes. But the key difference is they just don't care. They don't freeze up, but they keep talking.
That mindset is absolutely fundamental. I mean, think about your own native language. Do you stop mid-sentence thinking, wait, is that the right tense? Of course not. If I asked you right now to speak to someone and say Urdu, if that's your language, you'd just talk. You wouldn't pause and say, oh, hang on, I can't speak today. I've forgotten the grammar rules for whatever.
Right.
This expectation of perfection, it's a prison we build for ourselves.
Okay, but let me just push back a little here.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of learners, especially maybe professionals, that fear feels real. If they keep saying things like, yesterday I go to market, they worry. They worry they'll sound, uneducated or maybe unprofessional. How do you get past that specific fear, the fear of making bad habits?
That's a really valid point, and it actually leads us straight into step 2. Really focusing on communication first, not perfection. It's about separating temporary accuracy from that long-term goal of fluency. That story you mentioned from the source, the student who could write these amazing essays, perfect grammar, complex stuff.
Yeah, we couldn't order a coffee.
Exactly. That's a perfect illustration. They had correctness down, sure, but they failed at connection.
Right. Correctness versus connection. That's a good way to put it.
The main goal, initially anyway, is just to get your message across, to connect with another person, as the sources put it. Grammar makes you correct, but communication makes you connected. Eek, eek, eek. So if you use simple words, maybe the tense isn't quite right, but the other person understands you, you've succeeded. That's a win. And here's the important part. Those small mistakes, like I go yesterday, you fix those later. Through using the language, through getting feedback naturally, not by stopping yourself before you even start. The absolute priority has to be opening your mouth.
Okay, so we commit to speaking. We prioritize getting the message out. What's next? The sources talk a lot about rhythm, about flow, and step 3 tackles something I see all the time. People pausing mid-sentence, they stop, they think, they correct, and the flow just dies.
Oh, it absolutely kills it. Kills the confidence, kills the rhythm. You have to keep that momentum going, whatever it takes. The aim is to develop what the sources call natural correction. It's what fluent speakers do without even thinking.
Natural correction. Okay, so how does that work in practice? How do you fix something without stopping dead?
You just keep the sentence moving. You subtly weave the correction in as you go. You don't signal it like some big error. The example from the source was great. Instead of stopping cold, you might say, I go too. I went to the park yesterday. See? It's smooth, almost unnoticeable.
Okay.
You're training your brain that a little slip up isn't a 5-alarm fire. It's just a tiny course adjustment. Keep the engine running.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Moving on. Step 4 is something really interesting, almost like a brain hack we found in the material. Shadowing.
Shadowing is fantastic. It's like it bypasses the whole overthinking part of your brain. Basically, you listen to something, a podcast, maybe an interview, whatever, and you repeat what the speaker is saying right as they say it, or just slightly after. The focus isn't on understanding every word. It's purely on copying the sounds, the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, the speed.
So you're like a little echo, just trying to mimic the music of the language.
Exactly. And the reason why it works is crucial. By focusing only on the sound and the speed, you're kind of forcing the language patterns into your muscle memory, your mouth memory. You stop analyzing, oh, is that past tense? Present perfect. You're just feeling the rhythm, internalizing the sound patterns directly. It makes speaking feel much more automatic over time.
And to sort of capture that feeling, that progress, step 5 is super simple, very actionable. Just record yourself speaking every day, even just for a minute.
Yeah, this one's, I'd say, almost non-negotiable if you're serious, because it gives you actual data, hard evidence. When you record yourself and listen back, maybe not immediately, maybe the next day, you shift that self-correction process. It's not happening inside your head in a panic, making you freeze. It becomes external, analytical. You listen and think, okay, I hesitated less there, or wow, my sentence was longer that time. And crucially, you hear yourself improving without having buried yourself in grammar books. That builds real confidence.
Okay, so we've got the mindset right. We're working on flow. We're training the mouth. But what about the brain itself, how it processes language? Step 6 seems huge here.
Yeah.
Learning to think in English.
Oh, it's absolutely the core of it. That translation step.
Yeah.
You know, thinking it in your native language, translating it word by word, then trying to say it. That's the fluency killer right there. That delay, that lag, that's what makes speech sound hesitant and unnatural. You got to train your brain to just skip that whole middle part.
Skip the middleman.
Right.
Okay, but how? How do you actually do that? It sounds hard.
It is at first. It takes conscious effort. But you start small, really small. Instead of thinking, I'm thirsty, then maybe translating that from, say, Spanish Tango said, you train yourself to directly link the feeling of thirst to the English phrase, I'm thirsty, or I need water.
Let's see.
You start narrating your day internally in simple English. Okay, I need to get keys. That car is red. I feel hungry. You force your inner voice to use English for these basic things. And slowly with practice, that thinking process starts to automate for more complex thoughts too. The hesitation fades because you're generating the language directly. And guess what? The grammar often starts to sort itself out naturally when you're producing it automatically.
That links really nicely to step 7, learning language and patterns, not just isolated rules.
Yeah.
We spend ages on grammar tables, but real-life English seems to run on these ready-made chunks, these fixed patterns.
Totally. Native speakers aren't constantly assembling sentences from scratch using abstract rules. We rely heavily on these established patterns, these chunks. If you try and build every single sentence based on tense rules and conjugation, well, you'll just be too slow. But when you learn a whole pattern, you learn a functional piece of communication you can just plug in and use.
So instead of drilling the rule for I don't know, using used to. You just learn the whole phrase, I'm used to waking up early.
Precisely. You learn patterns like, I'm looking forward to it, or it depends on you, or that I'm used to, example. You don't need the deep grammatical analysis for using it. You just know the pattern works, it's fixed, and you repeat it. It's much more like how kids learn, isn't it? They hear patterns, they copy them, they fill in the blanks. It's way more efficient for fluency than memorizing endless lists of exceptions.
And speaking of efficiency, step 8 hits back at that fear we talked about earlier, the idea you need big, fancy words to sound smart. The advice here is blunt. Use simple English. Simple is powerful.
Yeah, that fear of sounding simplistic is a big hurdle. Learners think using basic words like good or go or like makes them sound childish or unintelligent, but honestly, strong English is clear English. Think about it. Native speakers use the most common couple of thousand words for like 90% of their daily chat.
Right, and if you're constantly reaching for some complex synonym, trying to say vicissitudes instead of changes, you just slow yourself down, right? You might even lose the listener.
Exactly. That mental search for the perfect complex word, it creates what psychologists call cognitive load. It gums up the works. When you give your brain permission to use clear, simple, common words, your processing speed goes way up. Your fluency develops much, much faster. Simple English isn't a weakness. It's actually a huge strength, especially when you're building momentum.
Okay, great. So we got the internal set sorted, mindset, flow, thinking in patterns.
Yeah.
Now, where do we actually practice all this? Step 9 suggests something fun. Building confidence through speaking games. Low pressure, focused on flow.
Yes. This is the training ground, the gym, if you like. The whole point of these games isn't to be accurate. It's purely about getting into a state of flow. You're actively practicing overriding that urge to stop, think, and correct.
Like those examples in the sources. Grab any object nearby, describe it for 60 seconds, nonstop. Or pick a topic, my favorite food, and just talk about it for a minute, again, without stopping. Even if you start talking nonsense.
Even if you talk nonsense, it doesn't matter. What matters is the outcome. You're training yourself not to hesitate. You're teaching your brain and your mouth that continuous forward motion feels better, less anxious than stopping and starting. You develop that physical rhythm of English, that smooth delivery, even if the content needs work initially. It's about building the habit of continuous speech.
Got it. And the final step, step 10, kind of brings it all together. It's about authenticity. Learn from real people, not just textbooks.
Yeah, you absolutely need to immerse yourself in the language, how it's actually spoken in the wild, you know? So that means listening to real stuff. Podcasts like this one, interviews, YouTube videos, eavesdropping on conversations if you can. Textbooks are usable. They give you structure, sure, but they don't teach you the real music of the language.
The music, what do you mean by that? What do real voices teach you that books can't?
Oh, so much. The emotion behind the words, the intonation, the pauses people use for effect, the rhythm, the speed variations, and all the messy stuff. Real-life English is full of slang. People reducing words like gonna for going to or wanna for want to. They interrupt each other. They hesitate. That's how people actually talk. That messy, authentic environment is where true functional fluency lives. You need to expose your brain to it constantly so you start noticing those organic patterns and eventually start copying them without even thinking about it.
So wrapping this all up for you, our listener,
Yeah.
the main message seems really clear. Stop waiting. Stop waiting until your grammar is perfect. That day might never come.
Yeah.
Your journey to fluency, it really begins the second you decide to open your mouth and speak. Use these steps. Prioritize that flow. Prioritize connection over absolute correctness. Start today.
Absolutely. And just remember that core idea that ties all this together. Fluency isn't like passing a grammar test. It's a communication skill. It's practical. By focusing on just speaking, trusting that you'll naturally correct over time, and learning through patterns and listening to real people, you basically switch on your English-speaking brain. The moment you decide, okay, I'm jumping in, you start swimming, and pretty soon speaking starts to feel, well, as natural as breathing.
Love that. Okay, your homework, go find something, anything, and describe it out loud. 60 seconds. Don't stop. Go. We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive. We take your source material, cut through the noise, and get right to the heart of it. And today, we're tackling something pretty big, kind of revolutionary, actually. We're diving into sources that basically challenge how language, especially English, is typically taught. They're saying the standard path to fluency. Maybe it's been wrong for decades.
It's a bold claim. Definitely. Our sources argue that, all the focus on grammar rules, vocab lists, trying to speak right away, that's not really the core of fluency.
Okay, so what is the core, according to them?
It all comes down to listening mastery. Think about it. Truly fluent speakers. They're fantastic listeners. They've absorbed the language's entire sound system, its rhythm, its flow.
Right, I get that. Because you learn a grammar rule, maybe perfectly, but then you hear a native speaker say something that just breaks it. But it sounds totally natural.
Exactly. And these sources argue that happens because your ear hasn't been trained enough. The better you listen, the more intuitive English becomes.
So it's about the rhythm, the tone, the emotion, stuff grammar books just can't teach.
Precisely. That's the gateway. The goal here for you listening is to stop that constant mental translation, word by word.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It is. But when you listen enough, deeply enough, you start to feel the language instead of just translating it.
Okay, so we want to lay out the blueprint for that. We've pulled together 12 techniques from these sources, all focused on building fluency just through listening.
Let's dive in. The foundation is what we're calling ears first.
And step 1 sounds, well, almost too simple. Passive listening for exposure.
It sounds simple, but it's foundational. It just means making English a part of your daily soundscape.
So like podcasts while cooking, music while driving, even if I'm not really concentrating.
Yes, exactly that. You don't need deep focus for this stage. Your brain isn't downloading vocabulary lists yet.
So what is it doing?
It's building familiarity. It's getting used to the sounds, the cadence, the patterns of English. Even in the background, your brain is processing those sounds, sorting them. So it's like preparing the ground before planting the seeds, making the sounds normal, not foreign.
Precisely. Think about how kids learn their first language. They listen passively for months, just absorbing everything around them long before they say mama or dada.
That makes sense. Getting used to the music of the language first.
And that music, that melody, brings us straight to step 2. Focus on rhythm, not words.
Right. Because the usual way, trying to catch every single word, it just causes panic when you miss one.
It's a really common trap, and it stems from not understanding how English works phonetically.
What do you mean?
Well, unlike some languages where each syllable gets roughly equal time, English is stress-timed.
Stress-timed.
Meaning we emphasize certain words, the important ones, and we kind of rush or squash the little words in between. Da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. If you listen for that rhythm, that rise and fall, you get the meaning much faster than trying to grab every the or is.
Okay, that's a huge shift in focus.
It really is. Take the classic example. I didn't say he stole the money.
Stress. I didn't say he stole the money means someone else said it. Stress. I didn't say he stole the money means maybe he borrowed it or lost it.
Wow. Same words, completely different meaning, just from the rhythm.
Exactly. Train your ear for that, and you understand more, often without needing the specific grammar rule.
That leads nicely into step 3 then. Understanding before speaking. How does just listening build your active vocabulary?
Through implicit learning. It's about exposure and repetition in context.
Could you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you hear, I've been waiting, used correctly, maybe 100 times. In different natural situations, someone tapping their foot, looking annoyed, checking their watch. Your brain doesn't analyze the present perfect continuous tense. It just registers, I've been waiting, as a complete chunk linked to that specific feeling or situation.
So you learn phrases, like blocks of meaning, not just isolated words.
Exactly. And those chunks become instantly usable when you need them. It builds your speaking toolkit without conscious memorization.
Okay, so we've got the foundation. Passive exposure, focusing on rhythm, understanding first. How do we make this more active? Get those sounds into our own speech.
Right, let's move into section 2. Actionable techniques for absorption and muscle memory. Starting with step 4, the echo technique.
Echo technique. Sounds like what it is.
Pretty much. You hear a phrase, a sentence, anything you like the sound of. You pause and you immediately repeat it.
Just repeating the words?
No, crucially, you copy everything, the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, even the emotion behind it.
Okay, why is that so effective?
It taps into your brain's mirror neurons. It's linking what you hear directly to the physical act of speaking. You're training your mouth, your tongue, your lips.
Like a singer rehearsing lyrics. They're not thinking grammar, they're thinking flow and delivery.
Precisely. It builds muscle memory for those sounds and phrases so they come out more naturally later.
Makes sense. Less like studying, more like practicing a performance. Okay, step 5 is layer listening. This sounds efficient.
It is. It's about getting the absolute maximum value from one short piece of audio instead of just passively listening to hours of stuff.
So you take one clip, maybe a minute long.
Yeah, something short. And you listen to it multiple times, but each time with a different focus. 4 layers.
Walk us through them.
Okay, layer 1. Just listen. Enjoy it. Don't try to understand everything. Just get the gist, the feeling.
Okay, no pressure at first listen.
Right. Layer 2. Listen again, this time focusing on the main ideas. What's actually happening? What's the story or the main point?
Still pretty broad.
Yep. Layer 3. Now you zoom in. Listen specifically for interesting expressions, phrases, or chunks. You know, things like, by the way, or you know what I mean, or hang on a second.
Ah, the conversational glue. The bits that make speech sound natural.
Exactly. Those are gold. Write them down if you need to. And finally, layer 4. Active repetition. Listen sentence by sentence or phrase by phrase and repeat out loud. Try to mimic the speaker's accent, speed, and intonation as closely as you can.
Wow, okay. That's really drilling down into one piece of audio.
By the end, you've squeezed so much learning out of just 60 or 90 seconds.
Very practical. Now, step 6 is vital for sticking with this, choosing the right material.
Absolutely crucial. And the number 1 rule, listen to stuff you actually find interesting.
Because if you're bored, you won't learn.
You just won't. Your brain tunes out. Enjoyment fuels attention, and attention fuels learning and memory. It's that simple.
Okay, but what about level? What should beginners listen to versus advanced learners?
Good question. For beginners, the sources recommend things with really clear speech and simpler vocabulary. Think podcasts specifically designed for learners, maybe slow English news or even kids shows.
Right, clear and slow. Intermediate.
You can move up to things like natural conversations, interviews, maybe TV shows with a lot of dialogue like sitcoms or dramas.
Stuff that's faster but still pretty accessible.
Exactly. And for advanced learners, you need challenge. TED Talks are great, complex documentaries, podcasts on specific subjects like business or science, things with dense language, and maybe faster speech.
The key is finding that balance, interesting but also slightly challenging, right? Pushing yourself a bit.
Exactly. You want to be in the zone, not overwhelmed or bored.
Okay, let's talk about really integrating this into fluency. Section 3, making it stick.
And step 7 is a big one. Repetition as a weapon.
Sounds intense.
Well, it's about understanding that fluency isn't about knowing something once. It's about knowing it so well it becomes automatic. Like breathing.
And that takes repetition.
Lots of it. Hearing phrases again and again until your brain stops translating and just knows. It moves from conscious effort to unconscious performance.
What's a practical way to do this? Listen to the same song 50 times.
You could. Or, more targeted, pick one short audio clip, maybe just a minute, something you really like, and listen to it, say, 10 times a day for a week.
10 times a day. Okay, that's commitment.
It might feel repetitive at first, but you'll hit a point where it just clicks. The phrases become part of you. That's the breakthrough.
Okay, building automaticity. Then step 8 is active listening and connectors. This sounds like switching gears from passive.
It is. Passive listening builds the foundation, the exposure. Active listening is where you really start digging in and analyzing how people speak.
So not just letting it wash over me, but asking questions while I listen.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what's the speaker's tone? Happy, sarcastic, urgent? How are they linking their sentences? Are they using and, but, so, or more natural connectors?
What kind of natural connectors?
Things like, oh, really? Guess what? Anyway, So yeah, here's the thing. The little phrases that make conversations flow smoothly.
And the idea is to notice them, maybe jot them down.
Yes. Build your own list. These are crucial for making your own speech sound less like a textbook and more like a real conversation.
That leads perfectly into step 9, which feels related. Imitate emotions.
Hugely important and often totally overlooked. Fluency isn't just about correct words and grammar. It's about conveying meaning through how you say things.
The feeling behind the words.
Exactly. So when you're echoing or repeating, like in step 4 or layer 4, don't just mimic the sounds, mimic the emotion. Try to feel what the speaker feels. It's almost like acting.
So if the speaker sounds excited, you try to sound excited too.
Yes. Think about, I'm so happy for him, said with genuine excitement. It's warm. Said flatly, or with sarcasm.
Completely different message, same words.
That's the power of intonation and emotion. Native speakers rely heavily on these cues. Your ear needs to catch them and your voice needs to be able to produce them.
Okay, now step 10 feels like bridging listening and speaking directly, mixing listening with speaking.
Yeah, this is about making listening less passive, more interactive, even when you're alone. Treat the audio like a conversation partner.
How do you do that? Talk back to the podcast.
Kind of. Pause the audio occasionally and react out loud. If the speaker says something interesting, say, wow, or, I don't know about that.
Just short, immediate reactions.
Exactly. Or if they ask a question, even a rhetorical one, answer it briefly. You're practicing that immediate response, closing the gap between hearing and speaking.
And there's a bonus trick mentioned here. The prediction game.
Oh, yeah, this is a great one for engagement. Pause the audio right before the speaker finishes a thought or sentence. Try to predict what word or phrase comes next based on the context and rhythm.
And then play it to see if you were right.
Yeah, it forces you to anticipate, to think in the language's patterns. Really powerful active listening.
Okay, nearly there. Step 11 is about making this consistent, setting listening challenges.
Right, making it concrete and trackable. Keep it fun. The sources suggest things like a listening journal.
What do you put in it?
Maybe just one cool phrase or chunk you heard that day. Something like, that's hilarious. Or, let me get back to you on that. Write it down.
And then?
Then challenge yourself to use it, or at least repeat it to yourself maybe 5 times that day. Or set a goal. Listen to one 10-minute podcast episode daily, find 3 new expressions, repeat them. Small, achievable goals.
Keeps you focused and shows progress.
Exactly. And that leads to the final overarching point, step 12. Maintain consistency and track fluency markers.
Because fluency isn't a final destination you reach, right? It's ongoing.
It's a habit. You need regular listening time scheduled in, even just 10-15 minutes daily. Non-negotiable.
And tracking progress. But not by grammar test scores.
No, track the real markers of fluency. How quickly do you understand things without translating? How often do you catch yourself using a new phrase naturally? How much has that feeling of panic or frustration decreased when listening?
Those are much better indicators. When the effort feels less, you know you're improving.
Absolutely. So if we tie this all together, the big idea from these sources is really clear. Fluent speaking genuinely starts with fluent listening.
You're training your brain the natural way, through imitation and absorption, like a child does.
Right, bypassing a lot of the abstract rule memorization that often slows learners down.
So the ultimate goal, the takeaway for you listening, is moving beyond just learning English as a subject.
And starting to live it as a tool, as part of your world. These techniques are designed to make that shift happen.
It becomes effortless, eventually.
Which brings us to a final thought, something to chew on. Why does this listening-first approach often boost motivation so much?
Interesting question.
Well, think about it. When English stops sounding like a difficult code and starts sounding, well, beautiful, like music you enjoy, something you want to engage with.
The motivation changes. It's not pressure anymore.
Exactly. It shifts from the pressure of, I have to learn this, to the pleasure of, I enjoy understanding and using this. And according to these sources, that shift from pressure to pleasure, that's where the truly effortless, sustainable progress really begins.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So picture this. You've studied English for ages, you know the grammar, the vocab, but when you try to actually speak, you just freeze up. There's that pause, that mental buffering. Well, today we're diving into why that happens and, more importantly, how to fix it. We're talking about thinking directly in English.
Exactly. And look, based on the sources we dug into, linguistics, psychology studies, the main culprit isn't usually that you don't know enough words. It's the translation, that constant mental detour.
Oh, absolutely. You can almost feel your brain grinding gears.
Yeah.
Trying to take a thought in your native language, find the right English words, put them together.
And by then, the conversation's moved on.
Yeah, the moment's just gone. So our mission today is to figure out how to train your brain to skip that whole process, to make English instinctive.
It's what the research calls the translation trap. One source had a really good way of putting it. Imagine your brain has 2 rooms. Room A is your native language. Room B is English. The idea pops up in room A, but to say it in English, it has to travel over to room B, get unpacked, translated word by word. It's slow, it's clunky.
And inefficient.
Totally inefficient. It eats up precious seconds.
Plus, translation often just fails, doesn't it? I mean, think about certain phrases, the feeling behind them. You can translate the words maybe, but the vibe gets lost.
Precisely. You might find a literal equivalent, but it feels, I don't know, sterile. off.
Yeah, exactly. So the real goal isn't just swapping words. It's about getting the meaning across, thinking the idea directly in English terms.
Right. So instead of constructing the sensation I am experiencing indicates a need for sustenance from your native thought, you just think, I'm hungry.
Simple as that. Okay, so we know the problem, this translation trap. How do we actually, rewire things? Where do you start?
Well, you can't just flip the switch, obviously. The brain needs training wheels. So the advice is clear. Start small. Really small.
Like what?
It's called microthinking. Just tiny internal thoughts, deliberately in English, scattered through your day. No pressure.
Okay, give me an example. What does that look like for someone listening?
So you wake up. Maybe you think, okay, time to get up. Or the weather looks nice today. Simple stuff. Making coffee. Need more milk. Or this smells good.
Just little internal labels for what's happening.
Exactly. Short, simple, everyday thoughts. And here's the kicker. The sources are pretty confident about this.
Yeah.
If you actually do this, consciously practice these one-sentence thoughts for just, say, 2 weeks, you'll start catching yourself thinking in English automatically.
Really? Just 2 weeks?
That's the promise. Because you're building a habit. You're telling your brain, hey, English inactive now. It becomes sort of the default internal chatter.
Okay, that makes sense, like building a muscle.
Yeah.
So once you've got those tiny thoughts firing, what's next?
Then you start connecting it more to the world around you. Step 2 is basically describing your world internally.
Like a running commentary in your head.
Kind of, yeah. But low-key, my phone is charging, desk's a mess, this tea is really hot. You're linking the language directly to your immediate reality.
Making it concrete.
Right. And that leads into step 3, which is direct association. This is a neat trick.
Let's hear it.
Remember learning languages in school? Maybe sticking labels on things?
Oh, yeah, the sticky notes.
Mhm.
Table, chair, window.
Exactly. It sounds basic, but there's a reason it works. When you see the actual object say, your remote, and the label says remote, your brain starts linking the thing directly to the English word.
Ah, so it bypasses the need to think of the word in your native language first.
Precisely. It's creating a shortcut. Like how kids learn. They see a dog, hear dog, and boom, connection made. They don't translate dog from baby language first.
Right, they just absorb it. So we're trying to mimic that direct link.
We are. We're deliberately training our adult brains to skip that translation filter we've built up over years.
Okay, so we're thinking small thoughts, labeling our world, but it's all silent so far. How do we get it out?
Right. That's the next crucial step. Step 4. Speak those thoughts out loud.
Even if you're alone.
Especially if you're alone. Just whisper it if you have to. Okay, getting ready for work now. Feel pretty tired. The point is getting your brain and your mouth working together, closing that gap.
And the key here, I gather, isn't perfect grammar.
Absolutely not. Forget perfection. This is private practice. Focus on flow, just getting the words out smoothly, speeding up that connection.
Okay, makes sense. Now, step 5. This one sounds really interesting. Using English for emotional thoughts. The sources say this is huge, and most people skip it.
It's a game changer, honestly. Think about it. For a language to feel truly yours, like part of your inner voice, it needs to connect to your feelings, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Emotions are fast. They're deep. When you tie English to feeling annoyed or happy or relieved, the language gets wired into that faster, more instinctive part of your brain. It's not just academic knowledge anymore.
But hang on, if I feel irritated and think, I'm so irritated, isn't that just translating the feeling? How does it become native English thought?
That's a fair point. Initially, yeah, maybe you are consciously translating the feeling, but the key is repetition. By forcing yourself to express that irritation or joy or whatever, using the English phrase again and again.
Like that made my day, or this is frustrating.
Exactly. Over time, the feeling itself starts to trigger the English phrase directly. The translation step just disappears. You've rewired it. English becomes the language of your immediate emotional reaction.
Wow, okay. That's powerful. So to really make that stick, you need the right environment, right? Step 6, the English zone.
Definitely. Look, your brain likes the easy route. If everything around you is in your native language, that's what it'll default to. So you need to make English unavoidable, normal.
Yeah.
Change your phone language, change your computer settings, follow social media accounts in English, not just news, like fun stuff, hobbies, watch YouTubers speaking casual English, listen to English podcasts like this one.
Subtle plug.
Hey, but seriously, immerse yourself. Make English the background noise of your life. It normalizes it.
Right, so it stops feeling foreign. Okay, so we've laid the foundation: micro thoughts, world description, labels, speaking aloud, emotional connection, environment. Now let's get into the more advanced stuff. Step 7, thinking in chunks.
Ah, yes. This is a big one. Most learners, especially grammar-focused ones, build sentences word by painstakingly slow word.
Subject, verb, object.
Yeah. Fluent speakers don't do that. They grab chunks, ready-made blocks of language.
Like I'm gonna go instead of I am gonna go.
Exactly. Or, let's grab a coffee. How's it going? I don't feel like it. What do you mean? These aren't calculated. They're just retrieved as a unit.
And you learn these mostly through listening, right? Not grammar rules.
Absolutely. You hear them, you absorb them, you start using them. They become automatic. It frees up so much mental energy because you're not constructing. You're just selecting the right block.
It's like using prefabricated parts instead of building brick by brick.
Perfect analogy. And a great way to stock up on these chunks is step 8. Watch and imitate.
Not just passively watching, though.
No, active imitation. Watch casual stuff, vlogs, interviews, people just talking naturally. And don't just copy the words, copy the rhythm, the intonation, the flow.
Even the little filler words, like kinda, sorta,
Especially those, they're part of the music of the language. This builds what the sources call mental fluency. You start to internalize the patterns. Your brain gets faster at predicting what comes next, even without subtitles.
That's the real sign you're thinking in English, isn't it? When you can anticipate.
It really is. And you can practice this even when you're quiet. Step 9 covers 2 great methods for that.
Okay.
First is silent shadowing. As you're walking down the street, waiting for a bus, whatever, just silently narrate what's happening. Okay, crossing the street now. That dog looks friendly. This music is pretty good.
Keeping the English engine running in the background.
Exactly. And the second is journaling. Keep a simple diary or thought journal in English. Don't obsess over grammar. Just write about your day, your thoughts, your feelings. Focus on getting the ideas down, on flow.
It's like a mental workout.
It is. It strengthens those pathways for expressing more complex thoughts in English without the pressure of a real-time conversation.
Okay, we've covered a lot of techniques, but there's always that mental block, that fear.
The psychological hurdle. That brings us to step 10. Accept mistakes. Seriously, you have to be okay with messing up.
Easier said than done.
I know, but think of it this way. Mistakes aren't failures. They're just data. They show your brain is trying, testing things out, learning the new system. It's like a toddler learning to walk. They stumble, right? You don't criticize them, you encourage them.
So see errors as steps, not setbacks.
Exactly. Progress, not perfection. That's the mantra for thinking in English.
And once you're comfortable with the basics, the simple thoughts, you need to push it further, right?
Yeah.
Step 11, expansion.
Yes. You can't just stay with the weather is nice. You need to start thinking about bigger things in English. Your plans, your opinions, your dreams.
Like actually formulating your goals for the future in English.
Precisely. I want to get better at English because it will help me. Thinking through complex arguments or ideas entirely in English, that's when it really becomes your language for expressing your authentic self.
Making it the language of your complex inner life, not just simple observations.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, step 12, which ties it all together, reward yourself.
How so?
Your brain loves positive feedback. Every time you catch yourself thinking naturally in English or you manage a conversation chunk smoothly, just acknowledge it. Give yourself a mental pat on the back.
Like, hey, I did it.
Yeah. That little bit of reinforcement strengthens the habit. It tells your brain, this is good, do more of this.
So wrapping this all up, the big goal here isn't just better grammar or more words. It's about English becoming part of your identity, right?
That's the core of it. It stops being this foreign thing you study and starts being just how you think. You realize you don't actually need to know every single grammar rule to think. You need immersion, practice, repetition.
So the next time you catch yourself mentally translating, stop. Just pause and ask yourself, okay, how would I just think this in English right now with the words and chunks I already have?
That's the pivot. And honestly, the day that inner switch flips, the day your internal monologue starts running in English, you realize fluency wasn't about the rules all along. It was about mindset. It was about building that internal habit.
So here's something for you, the listener, to mull over. Since thinking in English helps make it part of who you are, what's one slightly complex opinion you hold, or maybe a goal you have for the next year? Try writing it down tonight, just a few sentences in English. Focus purely on getting the thought out, on the flow, not perfection. See how it feels to connect that personal idea directly to the language. Okay, let's jump right in today. We're talking about something huge for language learners. Getting truly fluent in real-life English, but without that constant fear of grammar rules tripping you up.
Right.
You know the feeling, right? You can understand movies, maybe write pretty well.
Yeah, the passive skills are often strong.
Exactly. But then you need to actually speak spontaneously.
Yeah.
And blank mind, racing heart.
That's the classic fluency trap, isn't it? Your knowledge is there from textbooks, from study, but real conversation, that's different. It's messy, it's fast, it involves real people, emotions.
Totally unpredictable.
Yeah. So we need to redefine what we mean by real-life fluency. It's not about passing a test. It's about using the language confidently, in the moment with actual humans.
Okay.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack practical steps. How do you get past that blank mind, that racing heart? We want to give you the tools, the mindset shifts, the actual techniques.
Let's do it. And the first big hurdle, the one we absolutely have to tackle first, is this myth of perfect English.
Oh, absolutely.
This idea that you have to be flawless before you even try. It's probably the biggest self-sabotage out there.
It's a massive psychological barrier. Seriously, if you wait for perfection, you'll wait forever. It's just not how language works.
Right.
Even native speakers. I mean, listen to any unscripted conversation. People pause, they say, they restart sentences, they use fillers like, and all the time.
And they make mistakes, grammatical errors happen.
Constantly. The real goal isn't flawlessness. It's just, can the other person understand you? Is the message getting across? That's intelligibility.
So it's about progress then, not perfection. We need to completely shift that focus.
Exactly. Stop chasing the textbook ideal. Start chasing connection.
Connection over correction. I like that.
That's the real measure, isn't it? In a real conversation, does the message land? Does the conversation keep going? That human element, it just overrides the academic rules every time.
Okay, let's make that concrete. Use that coffee shop example. You're nervous, you stumble, and you say something like, you get office every day.
Right. Okay, think about the barista. What's their goal? Serve coffee, maybe be polite. They hear the keywords, he, go, office, every day.
They get the gist.
They totally get it. Are they going to stop everything and say, excuse me, that should be goes? No way.
No.
They'll just continue the conversation. They'll likely say something like, oh, really? What kind of work does he do? Or something similar.
And boom, communication succeeded. The grammar mistake just vanished because the connection was made.
Precisely. It shows that English in the real world is a tool for humans, not some perfect machine you have to build correctly every single time.
That's a huge realization. It takes the pressure off.
It really should. View English less like studying geometry and more like learning to connect with people.
Right.
Once you accept that even native speakers are messy, you can relax a bit. Your job is to convey meaning, not pass a grammar test on the spot.
Okay, that mindset shift is fundamental. But we need the how. How do we take that feeling, that permission to be imperfect, and actually build fluency outside a classroom? What are the practical things to do?
Right, the action part. Well, fluency is built by using the language repeatedly in situations that feel, real, emotionally relevant.
So pull it out of the notebook.
Exactly. Put it into your actual life. And yes, start small. Ordering that coffee, asking for directions, maybe simple chats with colleagues if you can.
And what about online? Does that count as real?
Absolutely, especially now. Sending short voice notes in English, not just texts to friends who are also learning, that's a fantastic way to practice.
Why voice notes specifically?
Because it forces your mouth, your brain, and your confidence to work together in real time, but in a low-stakes way. You can re-record if you really mess up, but you're still speaking.
There's something about the psychology of it too, right? Learning faster in real situations.
Yeah, there's good evidence for that. When you're in a real interaction, even a small one, your brain is more alert. There's a little bit of adrenaline, maybe.
The stakes feel slightly higher.
Exactly. And that necessity, that need to be understood, it actually helps encode the language more deeply. You remember a phrase better if you used it successfully to say, order a complicated drink you really wanted, than if you just saw it on a flashcard. There's an emotion attached.
That emotional tag helps memory. Okay, this leads perfectly into your framework, the 3 C's of fluency.
Yes, the 3 pillars you need. Confidence, consistency, and context.
Let's break those down. Confidence first. This feels like the biggest hurdle for many. They think they need tons of words before they can be confident.
And that's backwards. Confidence isn't about having a huge vocabulary. It's the belief that you can communicate, even with the words you have now.
How does that belief actually help, though?
It changes how you sound. Instantly. When you believe you can get your message across, your voice becomes clearer, your pace is more natural, you stop that internal translation and self-doubt cycle, you sound more natural because you feel more capable.
Okay, makes sense. Then there's consistency.
Crucial. You need to speak English regularly. Every day, ideally.
Every day. That sounds exhausting. People might think of hours of study.
No, that's the trap. Consistency doesn't mean burnout. It means keeping the connection alive, even just 10 minutes a day.
10 minutes. Doing what?
Talking to yourself. Describe your breakfast out loud. Talk about your plans for the weekend. Just activating the speaking part of your brain keeps it language ready. It's like stretching before exercise. It prevents your English skills from getting cold and stiff.
I like that, language ready. So it's a habit, not a huge study session.
Exactly. Like brushing your teeth. Small, daily effort beats intense, infrequent effort every time for fluency.
And the third C, context.
Yes. This is about how you learn new language. Stop memorizing isolated words from lists.
Like learning meeting as just one word.
Right. Instead, learn it in context. Learn the whole chunk you'd actually use, like let's schedule a meeting, or I need to prepare for the meeting, or I'll join the media soon.
So you're learning functional phrases.
Functional chunks. This way, when you need to say something in a conversation, you don't have to grab individual words and try to assemble them with grammar rules on the fly.
Which takes way too long and sounds robotic.
Exactly. You just pull out the ready-made phrase. It reduces the mental load dramatically.
That ties back to making English an emotional language too, doesn't it? Using it for your own thoughts.
Perfectly. Use English for your internal monologue sometimes. Think about your day, your feelings in English. I worked hard today. That meeting was stressful. I met someone interesting.
You're creating your own dialogues.
Your own relevant, spontaneous dialogues, not just repeating textbook sentences. That's how you truly make the language yours.
Okay, we've covered mindset and the 3 C's. Now let's talk about the sound of fluency. How do we move from sounding like we're reading aloud to sounding natural?
Yeah, the flow, the rhythm. It's not just words, it's the music of the language.
Music.
Well, think about it. Native speakers connect words, they pause naturally, they use intonation, tone, pitch to add meaning. It's not just flat.
So how do we learn that music?
The key technique here is imitation. Listen to how native speakers sound, how they pause, how their voice goes up or down, how they express emotions like frustration or excitement.
So copy them, like mimicking.
Exactly. But focus on the rhythm and the flow, not necessarily trying to get a perfect accent. It's about sounding smooth and connected, not like you're assembling Lego bricks one by one.
And this is where things like connected speech come in handy, right? Those shortcuts native speakers use.
Absolutely essential. Things like gonna for going to, wanna for want to, lemmy for lemmy, kinda for kinda.
Some learners worry those sound incorrect or too informal.
But they're how people actually talk. Using them does 2 crucial things. First, you sound more natural, more relaxed. Second, it's actually easier on your brain and mouth.
Easier? How?
Think about it. Saying gonna is 2 syllables. Saying going to is 3, sometimes 4 distinct sounds, depending on how you say it. It saves mental energy, and that efficiency is core to fluency.
Like how kids learn. They just copy the sounds they hear.
Precisely. They imitate the overall sound pattern. They don't analyze the grammar first. They absorb the music.
So to imitate well, we need good input. Which brings us back to listening.
Listening is fundamental. It feeds your brain the patterns, the ready-made sentences, the natural rhythms that you'll eventually imitate, often without even thinking about it.
But it's not just passive listening, is it?
No. You need to listen actively, paying attention not just to what words mean, but how they sound together. How does a whole sentence feel? What's the rhythm? Where's the stress?
So instead of thinking, oh, that's the present perfect tense, when you hear, I've been waiting for you.
Right. You just absorb the sound, the shape of that phrase through hearing it again and again. I've been waiting. She's lived here for years. The structure becomes natural through exposure, not analysis.
Okay, so we listen actively, we imitate the flow. Is there a specific technique to really accelerate this?
Yes. There's one technique that combines listening and speaking in a really powerful way. It's kind of a secret weapon for fluency and flow. It's called shadowing.
Shadowing. Okay, tell us exactly what that is and how to do it. It sounds simple, but maybe it's tricky.
It's simple in concept, incredibly effective in practice. Shadowing is when you listen to a short piece of English audio, maybe a podcast clip like this, an interview, a movie line.
Okay.
And you repeat what the speaker is saying at the same time as them, like an echo, but you're trying to speak right along with them, maybe just a fraction of a second behind.
So you don't pause the audio and repeat, you speak over it.
Exactly. You speak over it. You're trying to match their pace, their rhythm, their intonation in real time.
Wow, okay. How do you even start that? Seems like you just get lost.
Start very small. Pick a clip that's maybe 20 or 30 seconds long, something clear. At first, yes, you'll probably lag behind. You might only catch every few words. That's fine.
Should you use a transcript at first?
You can, initially, just to know the words. But the real goal is to eventually do it without reading. Close your eyes, focus purely on the sound, and mimic the music, the ups and downs, the pauses, the connected sounds.
Why is this simultaneous repetition better than just listen then repeat?
Because it trains your brain, your ears, and your mouth muscles to work together under pressure at speed. It builds that muscle memory for forming English sounds and phrases instantly.
Ah, so it improves reaction time for real conversations.
Dramatically. When someone asks you something, you don't have time to slowly construct a sentence. Shadowing forces your mouth to keep up, building that reflex for quick, natural speech production.
Okay, imitation, listening, shadowing, powerful techniques. But we had to circle back to the biggest block, that fear, the feeling of not being ready.
Yeah, the elephant in the room.
We need to face it head on. The truth is, you never really feel 100% ready, do you? You become ready by actually doing it, by speaking.
Absolutely. We need a new rule etched in your brain. Don't fear mistakes, fear silence.
Ooh, I like that. Fear silence.
Because silence is what trains your brain to avoid English. It reinforces the fear. Mistakes, on the other hand, they're just data. They show you're trying, you're moving, you're learning. Every time you hesitate because you're scared, your confidence shrinks a little. Every time you speak, even if it's clumsy, that confidence muscle gets a tiny workout.
Flexing the confidence muscle.
Yeah.
And making it a daily habit is key to overcoming that fear too, right? Not treating English like a school subject.
Totally. You need to integrate it. Surround yourself with English. Make it part of your environment.
Practical tips.
Change your phone language to English. Change your computer OS. Listen to English music, not just to study lyrics, but just have it playing. Watch English shows or movies you genuinely enjoy.
Even with subtitles.
Sure, start with subtitles if you need them. The point is exposure. Consistent low-pressure exposure. Fluency grows in that environment, not just in intense, steady bursts.
So confidence muscle, daily exposure. What's the ultimate payoff here? Why go through all this?
The payoff connects to something much bigger. Freedom.
Freedom. Explain that.
It's the freedom to express who you really are without filtering yourself through translation. Think about it. When you're constantly translating from your native language in your head,
it slows you down.
It slows you down, and you often simplify your thoughts because translating complex ideas is hard work. You end up saying the simple version, not what you truly think or feel.
Because you're kind of censoring yourself.
In a way, yes. Real fluency gives you the freedom to share a complex opinion, tell a nuanced joke, express a deeply felt emotion directly in English without that translation barrier, without worrying constantly about the grammar. That's liberation.
It's not just about jobs or travel, though those are great. It's psychological freedom.
Exactly. Intellectual and emotional freedom.
And a key reminder here, you don't need to be in an English-speaking country for this.
Not at all. Fluency starts wherever you are right now. Talking to yourself in the mirror, recording voice notes, finding online practice partners. It's about dedication and consistency, not location.
So what's the immediate next step for someone listening?
Build that confidence muscle starting today. Give yourself one tiny, achievable English challenge daily.
Like what?
Maybe talk out loud in English for just 2 minutes about your day. Or commit to starting one simple English conversation, maybe online or with a colleague if possible. Remember, confidence isn't about not feeling fear. It's about speaking despite the fear.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. The big shift we're advocating for is...
Stop chasing that impossible goal of textbook perfection because it just paralyzes you.
Right, and instead...
Start chasing connection. Focus on being understood and be consistent. Build the habit.
Real-life fluency isn't some magic switch that flips overnight.
Not at all. It grows slowly, steadily, through hundreds of these small, consistent moments of actually using the language, even imperfectly. It takes courage to make a mess, but that's where the growth happens.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to take away and maybe explore. Fluency ultimately isn't really about sounding perfect. It's about sounding real. The world doesn't need another perfect, robotic English speaker. It needs your unique voice, your ideas, your personality expressed authentically. Confident, clear, and connected. Go out there and make some noise.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So you've come a really long way, haven't you? Moved past that grammar fear, feeling genuinely more confident speaking English. But today, we're going to shift gears a bit. We're looking beyond just getting fluent to staying fluent. Sustainability.
That's right. Fluency often gets treated like this finish line. You get a certificate, pass a test, and you're done. But the sources we looked at, they're really clear. Fluency isn't a one-off. It's more like a lifestyle change.
A lifestyle change? How so?
Well, think about it like fitness. If you stop exercising, you lose muscle, right? Same idea. If you start using English actively, those mental pathways, they kind of prune themselves. But if you integrate it, really live it, you build this permanent cognitive structure. It sticks.
Okay, I see. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack, 14 practical steps?
14, yeah. Practical ways to move from that feeling of constantly learning English, which can be stressful, right?
Definitely.
Into just living in English effortlessly, making it part of who you are, how you think, your whole world, permanently.
All right, so let's start where change really takes root, inside your head. The first step, principle 1. Make English your daily companion. Sounds simple. Maybe deceptively so.
It is simple, but crucial. We're talking frequency here, not necessarily long hours.
Right.
If English is just something you visit for an hour a week in class, your brain keeps it in the temporary subject folder. We need to switch that folder to default operating system.
Yeah.
And that means short daily contact, even just 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, so not just narrating, making coffee, I'm pouring water. For this audience, we need more, right? How about using it for, say, planning?
Exactly. Elevate it. Use English internally for complex stuff, like mentally outlining that tricky email you need to send.
Or maybe organizing your to-do list for the day, thinking through the priorities in English?
Yes, or even quickly summarizing a complex news headline you just scrolled past. That internal workout.
That mental workout.
Yeah.
That leads nicely into principle 2. Thinking directly in English, doesn't it?
It's a perfect bridge.
Yeah.
This is probably the biggest habit shift for true fluency. People think fluency is about speed.
Yeah, talking fast.
But it's not, really. It's about cutting out the translation lag, thinking directly.
I hear that a lot. But psychologically, what's actually happening when we stop translating?
It's fascinating, neurologically speaking. When you translate, you're juggling two different language systems, your native one and English. Your prefrontal cortex is constantly switching gears, and that takes up energy, cognitive load, basically.
Okay.
But when you force yourself to think directly in English, you're building and strengthening one direct path, thought straight to English expression.
Yeah.
It's just more efficient, less mental work.
So instead of just thinking, I'm walking, I should be maybe thinking through a work problem, okay, need to check those budget numbers later,
Right.
especially the Q3 variants.
Exactly. Handle complexity, abstraction, synthesis in English.
Yeah.
That's the leap from just memorizing stuff to actually mastering it.
Right. And building on that internal processing, we hit principle 3. Maintain the active English mode. This is about not just taking info in, but doing something with it.
Passive consumption isn't enough now. If you hear a cool phrase or read a complex sentence, don't just nod and understand. Actively process it.
Ow, repeat it.
Repeat it out loud, yeah. Or even better, paraphrase it.
Yeah.
Put it in your own words immediately. It's like shadowing or retelling, exercising those output muscles right after the input.
Gotcha. So, moving from internal thought to actually speaking, this brings us back to principle 4. Focus on patterns, not rules. This is huge. Even confident speakers sometimes freeze up trying to remember a grammar rule mid-flow.
That anxiety,
Right.
It's a fluency killer. We need to really hammer home that natural grammar comes from exposure and repetition, not dusty textbooks. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. Give it enough good input, it figures out the patterns instinctively.
Okay, but wait. If we focus only on patterns and ignore rules, isn't there a risk? What if I keep making the same small mistake over and over? Won't that pattern just get stuck?
That's a really important question. And the sources are clear. The quality of your input is key here. If you're consistently listening to native level stuff, good podcasts, news, well-written articles, your brain starts to notice when your pattern doesn't quite match that pattern.
So the high-quality input acts like a constant, subtle correction.
Pretty much. Consciously memorizing rules is slow work. Recognizing patterns through lots of good input. It's faster, more adaptable. You have to kind of trust the absorption process.
Okay, so we've worked on the inner voice. Now let's talk about shaping the environment. Making English the default setting, almost.
Exactly. The next few steps are all about immersion. creating these zones where English just is.
Starting with Principle 5, create the digital zone. Let's face it, our phones are practically attached to us. Might as well make them work for us, right?
Absolutely. Your phone could be your best teacher, seriously. Changing the device language to English. Simplest, maybe most impactful thing you can do.
Why so impactful?
It instantly creates what the sources call passive fluency training. Your brain is constantly seeing and processing little bits of necessary English, settings, notifications, send, without you actively studying.
It's the difference between seeing settings in a vocabulary list versus seeing it 50 times a day when you need to connect to Wi-Fi.
Exactly. The second way embeds it through need and context. It just sinks in.
Okay, that makes sense. And that leads to Principle 6. Read what you love. Reading's vital, we know that, but it has to be enjoyable, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. If it feels like homework, you won't stick with it. Ditch the boring textbooks. Find stuff you actually want to read.
So for this audience, maybe that's not just simple blogs. If you're into, say, astrophysics, find English science sites. If it's finance, read market reports in English. Keep the challenge level high with the topic itself.
Yes. When the subject matter itself gives you that little dopamine hit excitement, interest your brain links the language to that positive feeling. You remember the vocabulary not because you drilled it, but because it was part of something fascinating.
Right. And the auditory side of that is Principle 7. Listen to real voices. Reading builds vocab, but listening builds the music of the language.
That's a great way to put it. The rhythm, the prosody. Use natural stuff, interviews, talk shows, even just well-produced podcasts. And listen not just for what words are said, but how. The tone, the stress, the pauses, the melody of English.
And copying that melody, even unconsciously, makes your own speech sound smoother, more natural.
Definitely. You sound more confident because you've internalized the rhythm. Even if you occasionally pause for a word, you sound like a real speaker, not someone reciting lines.
Okay, and to make sure all this immersion doesn't feel like a burden, there's Principle 8. Integrate English and passion.
Yeah, connect it to your hobbies, things you already love doing.
So if you're learning, coding, watch the tutorials in English, follow a sports team, read the match analysis in English.
Precisely. When English is just the way you engage with something you're already passionate about, the study feeling disappears completely. It slots right into your emotional life, making learning feel, effortless, almost automatic.
All right, mental shift done, environment immersed. Now, the active part, actually using it and making it stick long term. Principle 9. Create conversations. This feels key. Don't just wait to be spoken to.
Initiative is vital here. It's about generating output, not just reacting. And maybe go beyond just texting a friend. Consider something like an advanced voice diary, maybe 5 minutes each morning. Record yourself talking through a complex idea or summarizing your week's goals, but really focus on using sophisticated language.
Why does that help so much?
Because you're connecting deep personal stuff, your thoughts, your plans, your identity directly with the language. The sources really stress this. Self-expression of the target language is kind of the final step to making it part of you. It makes recall feel instant.
But doing this consistently takes effort. Which brings us to Principle 10. Set realistic goals and prioritize consistency. That whole master English in 3 months thing is just setting yourself up for failure, isn't it?
Totally. Leads straight to burnout. You need small, achievable goals.
I like that analogy from the source's fluency as a slow fire. Build quietly, then suddenly it's just there. So what's a realistic goal at this more advanced stage?
It's about maintaining the flow, keeping the channels open. Maybe it's, I'll write one complex paragraph reflecting on my day every day, or I'll have a 5-minute uninterrupted practice conversation 3 times this week.
Just keeping it going.
Exactly. Consistency lets those neural pathways really solidify. You might feel like nothing's changing for ages, then suddenly you realize you're not hesitating anymore. That quiet, steady practice is what makes it permanent.
But during those plateaus, when it feels like you're stuck, it's easy to get discouraged. That's where Principle 11, celebrate wins, comes in, I guess.
Absolutely critical. So many people quit just before a breakthrough because they don't notice the progress they are making. You have to consciously acknowledge the small victories. Did you nail a presentation section? Did you understand that movie without needing subtitles for the first time? Did you actually use that sophisticated idiom you learned?
And those little wins build confidence.
And confidence is the fuel for fluency. It lets you take risks, make mistakes, which is how you keep growing.
Okay. And to keep that growth going, Principle 12, teach someone else. This one feels a bit counterintuitive. If I'm not perfect, should I really be teaching?
It sounds daunting, maybe, But the benefits are huge. You don't need to set up a formal class. It could be as simple as sharing a useful phrase you learned with a friend, or explaining a cultural point from a podcast, or even just summarizing a plot in English for someone.
How does that help me?
The act of explaining forces you to organize your thoughts, to retrieve the information, to synthesize it. It turns passive knowledge into active understanding. It's like the ultimate retrieval practice. It cements it in your own mind.
Ah, I see. Okay, nearly there. Principle 13, never stop learning. Fluency isn't the end goal, is it? It's more like the starting platform.
Exactly. It opens doors. Public speaking, creating content, writing, deeper connections. So much becomes possible. Every new word, every subtle idiom, it's a new tool in your communication toolkit. The sources suggest something simple. Learn just one relevant new word or phrase a day. That small effort keeps your language sharp and evolving.
Which leads us to the final, maybe the most profound point. Principle 14, the identity shift. Moving from English is hard or English is something I study to
English is part of me. This is the capstone, really. Fluency, at its core, is a mindset shift. It's letting go of needing to be perfect and embracing just being comfortable expressing yourself.
comfort over perfection.
Yes. When you change that internal story from student to speaker, when you truly feel like English is one of your superpowers, you stop seeing it as a chore. You just live through it. That comfort level, that's real lifelong fluency, much more than just perfect grammar. Hashtag tag outro. So if you've taken these principles on board, you've basically rewired how English fits into your life, your thoughts, your habits, your environment. It stops being just a subject and becomes, well, part of your identity. Opening up all that potential for connection, confidence, opportunity.
Absolutely. And the key takeaway really feels like fluency isn't about waiting for perfection. It's born from actually doing it, using it, connecting with it emotionally, sticking with it. So, get out there, speak, write, express yourself, connect. Focus on the message, and the language will follow. It finds its flow.
And that connects back beautifully to that idea of language as creation. You've essentially created this new linguistic aspect of yourself. So now that you have this fluency, this expressive superpower, what are you going to create with it? A speech, a blog, a new global friendship. What opportunity comes next? That's the real exciting challenge that starts now.
If today's episode inspired you to speak more freely, don't let it stop here. Keep practicing every single day. And remember, you don't need grammar to sound confident. You just need courage to express yourself.
Absolutely. Your fluency journey doesn't depend on perfection. It depends on consistency. So keep listening, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep believing that you can sound fluent and natural in English.
If you learned something valuable today, make sure to follow this podcast and share it with your friends who are also learning English. Together, we can make learning fun, fearless, and real.
And remember, English fluency doesn't happen in classrooms. It happens in your daily life. So take what you've learned here, go out there, and start living in English.
Because every word you speak brings you one step closer to your confident self. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you in the next episode of English Speak Pulse, where your voice finds its power.